The Perpetual Breakaway Podcast with your hosts Nick and Junior and producer Vince, bringing you elite fantasy hockey information to help you win your fantasy leagues and win at life.
Episode 75.
Oh, baby.
Are we ready to rock and roll?
3/4 of a century episode.
75 episodes, eh? Guys,
That's
we're going to have a
wild,
big blowout for our 100th episode.
Yeah, maybe we'll have we'll do it in front of 3 listeners or something.
We'll do a live event in front of 3 listeners.
Hey, you know what? We should plan it.
Yeah, I'm in.
down.
I'm in. Talking about planning, by the way.
Hey, $5 an entry. We need to make some money.
It won't even afford the beer that we're going to buy.
Sponsor, bro.
A sponsor, yeah. Talking about planning, we should start mentioning a little bit that playoffs are just around the corner.
Yes.
And we will start planning our
Battle Royale
Season 2. Our Mr. Cappy was our last winner.
Yeah.
He won a nice hoodie from Sportira. So this year we're gonna do something similar, and we'll give you some logistics very soon. But I think we're probably doing something.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe we do an ice hockey jersey instead of a hoodie this year.
Oh, very cool, very cool.
We'll see.
All right, we'll see.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, guys. We're coming at you at 10:42. This is our third try to start the episode. We've been having some internet and technical difficulties, but
at our studio.
We're at the studio. Yeah, the studio is having some internet difficulties, but we're still going to bring you our Odd Man Rush, where our 30-second takes are going to take 5 minutes. And we're going to go deep into our waiver wire pickups because people are in their semifinals and finals. I know not all of you are, but if you listen to this show, hopefully you are. And you took some of our advice during the year in order to get to where you are.
Some of Vince's advice.
Some of Vince's advice, yes, that's right. Prospect talk right after that. It's time to start looking at the draft coming up because we might do our first 5-pick mock draft later on in this show because things are just wild.
Oh my God, that changes every week.
It's every week you're kind of seeing something a little bit different. We're also going to talk about some prospects that are coming into the NHL soon, so stay tuned for that. And that's going to be pretty close to the end of the episode, but we do have a special guest today who is going to be a young listener.
Jojo Rapone, big Vancouver Canucks fan who's always wanted to be on one of our episodes. So we have like a little mini 3 to 5 minute interview with him.
Right at the end of the episode. So hopefully you guys enjoy all that. And we are going to start it off with the Odd Man Rush.
Odd Man Rush.
One of our better sound bites. I must admit.
All right.
Anytime you're ready.
Yeah, anytime, Nick.
Hey, it's me. All right, guys. So we've all kind of seen some special things from Cale Makar. But Lane Hudson is tied with Makar and Sanderson from Ottawa for most power play assists this season with 22. Quinn Hughes is right behind them with 21. Junior, why is this important? Why should we care?
You know, there's always doubters, right? Like he'll get one accolade and be like, yeah, but, and then there'll be another accolade, it'll be yeah, but, and there's always but. At the end of the day, he just keeps breaking records and showing us how impressive he is. And you know what? His all-around game is fantastic as well. So it's not like he's breaking accolades and he's breaking records and producing so much, but not really delivering in his own end. And I think he's proven so far this year that he's a legit defenseman in the National Hockey League.
I mean, last game he did have a giveaway. I think it was in overtime. He was, but he'll make his mistakes. So let's not say he's perfect.
But that's going to happen when you play his style of game, right? Like Makar's made those mistakes too, or Quinn Hughes, wherever controls the puck, they'll make those mistakes because they have it so often, right? Was it a bad? I think it was more of a bad decision than a bad play. But I mean, that I'll live with that mistake if he keeps producing the way he does and plays the way he does.
I'm actually really impressed with Sanderson, and I know you own him in one of your leagues. I think.
Yeah, but he was drafted top 10, so this is what they were expecting from him. When he was drafted, they had Shabbat, who had that great season. So that was the only the wrinkle is, would he be able to overtake Shabbat, which I think we can all agree that he like Sanderson's the legit number one in Ottawa. Like, I don't think there's anybody else in front of him. And for Hudson, listen, I was a doubter at the beginning of the season for Hudson, but the kid goes out, he does what he has. The doubters, you also have haters because they're jealous of the players that a certain team has. So let's hope he can keep it up, and that with him and other players, they can push the Habs to the playoffs.
Talking about defensemen, you know who recently had a debut for the San Jose Sharks? It's Luca Cagnoni. Vince, 1 point in 2 games. I'm sure you watched both games.
Yeah, San Jose when they play 10:30 at night. Sure.
We're in bed by 8:30
In his
usually.
third dream.
Can you talk to me a bit about Luca? And should we be excited? Is he going to be a top pairing guy with Sam Dickinson over there in San Jose, or you're looking more of a 3-4 maybe?
I don't know. Coming out of the draft, he was a 4th round pick. Like, he was a 123rd pick, so it wasn't like there was much upside to his game. But then he picked it up in the AHL. I mean, he doesn't have sloppy numbers in the AHL. 47 points in 56 games. I mean, you're playing against men in that league, right?
Yeah.
So those are really good numbers for a 20-year-old in that league. So 5'9", but we just spoke about a defenseman who's 5'9", who's killing it in his rookie season. So I still think San Jose would like that Dickinson be their best defensive prospect right now. But listen, if Cagnoni comes in and can produce as even a second defenseman, I don't think San Jose is going to be upset over that.
Absolutely. Junior,
Excuse me.
sticking with defensemen again, because this is a defensive show. We get very defensive here. Lev Shunov, NHL debut, not an assist. What are your expectations? And I know that we own him in the DPR league, so we're all very excited about Lev Shunov. But what can you tell me about, expectations were diminished a bit because he didn't do great in the AHL?
Yeah, so I that's my mistake, by the way.
Usually
'Cause
is.
his debut was March 10th. So he's played 7 games already.
Wow.
Yeah,
And?
and 2 points.
Well, didn't Chicago just put up 7 goals in this game?
Yeah,
played?
7 goals versus was it the Philadelphia Flyers? He had 0 points, 19 minutes of ice time, and controls 73.7% of the power play tonight in that game. So a little disappointing. He didn't get many points. 2 shots on goal. He's a +1. Look, he's on a cold streak according to Dobber Prospects. But Frozen Tools. No, look, defensemen are, I think, and centers are the positions that take the longest to develop, I think. And goalies too, actually. But defensemen and goalies, I think, take the longest. And it's just part of the process. We'll see where it goes. I don't think you'll be like super point producing at the levels of Makar or Quinn Hughes, but I think he will be a successful all-around defenseman that can put up solid points. It's just part of the process.
Okay. Talking about what's more important. According to the math, the Montreal Canadiens have about a 45% chance right now of making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Do we think they peaked too early? Because they have a tough schedule the next 4 games.
I think this week will determine if they peak too early or not. They're on the road for 4 games.
Yeah.
They're traveling a lot this week. So I think it's gonna, and they've been in a lot of games where they've come back from behind.
Yeah, I've
And
noticed that too.
And
yeah.
that takes a lot out of you as a player. Now, they were at home. They got the momentum. The crowd always could get you going. But I think this is gonna be the test. It's a road. It's 4 road games this week. I think they got fortunate that some teams kind of the wheels fell off, like Columbus, where they cooled off.
Can't even score a goal.
Yeah,
Man.
exactly. Columbus cooled off a lot.
Detroit.
Islanders were Islanders were one of the teams that people were saying don't even count them to make the playoffs, and now they're in there. Detroit has fallen off. Rangers are there, but they've played I think 3 or 2 more games extra than anybody else. So it's gonna be a very interesting week for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, it will be very interesting. I think one thing that you mentioned is the Islanders, and they traded away Brock Nelson, and all of a sudden they're better. they're actually like Sorokin's playing really well.
I think with Montreal, it's all going to come down to can Montembeault keep up what he's done since after 4 Nations. And their secondary scoring, like it showed up last game, but their secondary scoring has been a struggle.
I actually think they're playing Montembeault a little too much.
I agree.
He's been allowing some iffy goals, and the forwards of the offense has been bailing him out. So he might need a break here soon, and just put Dobesh in and see what happens.
They have a back-to-back with Philly and Carolina, so we'll see.
No, they need to play Dobish more. I think I agree with that. The kid hasn't had always a great start, but he's good enough as a backup. Throw him in there a couple of times. You're kind of Montembeault's letting in some softies here and there, so we'll see. Guys, back to the defenseman yet again.
Another one.
Cale Makar, we spoke about him before. We'll speak about him again. Would have been a nice segue if he was.
I know, but you guys were in a rush to start. I wasn't allowed to.
10:50 at night. Makar, first defenseman with 30 goals since Mike Green. Junior.
Look, what is there to say? I mean, Makar, he's probably going to go down as the best defenseman ever to play the game. That's how ridiculously good he is. He's on pace for 94 points. His career best was 90 last year. He's only 9 points away with 11 games left. Safe to say he's going to pass that.
Well, and again, we're speaking about this era. Like we
yeah.
I'm not old enough to have watched Bobby Orr.
Talk coffee.
Right. So he'll be the best defenseman of his generation.
Of our
make more
generation,
sense
for sure. Yeah.
Of his era. Look, I think, we talk about McKinnon always getting nominated for MVP and most valuable player, but I think Makar should have his share of votes too.
What I really like about Makar as well is his contract. I think he signed $9 million for like the next 3 years.
No, there's
years?
one more
Next
full
year.
season after this.
Is it?
Yeah,
Next
so
year, then he's
Okay, 2 years.
fantasy GMs beware, because he'll be paid at least 12 close to
13.
McKinnon money.
Yeah,
They
for
were
sure.
saying, which
Still-
is why Rantanen
Still a steal.
which is why they one of the reasons they traded Rantanen, because they knew Makar's contract was coming up.
Did you guys watch the head-to-head with JT Miller back in Vancouver?
Yeah.
The New York Rangers versus Vancouver Canucks. That was I saw mostly highlights, so I'm not gonna lie. I didn't watch the game fully because I passed out. But JT Miller, 4 points in 8 games before the matchup. Pettersson, 8 points in 8 games. And during the head-to-head matchup, JT Miller wins it with 1 goal, 1 assist, 6 hits. 3 of them on Pettersson, by the way. And also, I don't know if you noticed, but after the whistle, he gave a nice little shove to Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
Pettersson also got injured. No news yet on that severity. But, guys, how fun is this JT Miller thing? Because I saw right away one tweet come out during the first period, and New York was down. And they're saying, well, New York looks lost out there. They don't look like they're playing with any passion or any kind of structure in their game. They look like a completely disemboweled team. And then all of a sudden they win. Next two periods. So
yeah, listen, it is what it is. It's a ex-player going back to a situation where it was problematic, but I mean, right now the Rangers and Rangers fans have nothing to laugh about because they're out of a playoff spot, and
they're in the mix, right?
yeah, but they played 2 more games than everybody else. So I mean, when those obviously the teams have to win those 2 games, but I mean, listen, Pettersson's had an off year. I don't think this is the Pettersson that's going to be for the next 10 years. I think he'll get out of the funk, but like I said, when you don't know details, people like to speculate what actually happened. So, I listen. Good for Rangers. They came back. They won. They needed the win. Vancouver, it seems like they're slipping out of the playoffs also. So it was just a game.
To your point, the first period, shots were 11-1 for Vancouver. 1-0 Vancouver. It was 1-1 after 2 periods. The shots were 24-6 for Vancouver. The game ended 5-3 Rangers. The shots on net were 39 for Vancouver and 12 for the Rangers. The Rangers won with 12 shots on goal.
Lankinen is not looking too good after that contract.
Oof.
Yeah, well,
Talking about somebody that doesn't look too good.
You go, Nick. See how I give you that leeway? Segue?
Rantanen.
I don't want to talk about this.
Like, guys, we have to talk about Rantanen. Like, he just signed an incredible contract with Dallas. Dallas looks like they're a playoff team. And you know what? Rantanen in the playoffs is different than Rantanen here. But, guys, 4 points in 6 games with Dallas is not horrible. But
Considering how many goals they've scored, it's pretty bad.
it just doesn't look right now that he's gelled yet.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't gelled. It's I'm concerned now because he's ruining my chances to a top 2 finish, but I think by the time next season starts, he'll be okay. You know, I feel bad for Dallas in a way because they put him on that first power play, and I don't recall who they took out, but that power play was on fire before he got there, and now that first unit is struggling again. So I think they're trying to force it maybe a little bit too much instead of just easing him in.
Yeah, I could see like a quality to starting someone off that's new to the team and starting them slow, right? You just send them, here's all the money in the world, here's the Brinks truck that we're backing up to your house, and top power play, go, do everything. But the team's been doing it all year, right, without him.
We spoke about it. When someone goes to a new team, it always takes time to adapt to, and you might not get his full adaptation until next year, but the thing with Dallas is they're such a good team anyways that even if he's off, they can still win games.
Yeah, they're so deep.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not worried.
Well, I'll tell you who needs to adapt, and that's the Edmonton Oilers.
Wow.
Because with McDavid injured, Draisaitl injured, I guess next man up is RNH. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is back from
Stepped
fantasy irrelevance
Got a hat trick.
to fantasy number 1 center.
Stepped up. He stepped up big time against the Kraken. I think we spoke about it before. That was like a big trap game in terms of betting and gambling. But hey, look, all those guys that they went to go get, the Arvidssons, the Skinners, now's the time. Now's the time to
Earn that cash.
earn that cash. I mean, you didn't get much, but now's the time to earn it and to prove that you deserve a spot on that roster, even when they come back. And they all scored. So Nugent Hopkins with a hat trick, of course.
And Evander Kane skating again.
Talking about coming back, we're going to segue again.
This guy's on fire.
Bam!
And this time we're going to segue to Sean Monahan. Because we mentioned it that this Columbus team
Struggling.
is struggling mightily right at the end.
Couldn't have picked a better time.
Yeah,
And
but young team, right? Young team, and Sean Monahan was having a phenomenal season with them. Just his presence, his veteran leadership that he was bringing. So you saw they were missing that, and you saw down the stretch how Columbus, not only how Columbus got back like got brought back to work.
You could do it. You could do it.
Got brought back to work, but also their goalies also came back like to work really quickly. Like whereas Linkus was having a phenomenal season. So listen, hopefully with him back, they might be able to make that push and be in the mix when it comes to the last week of the NHL season.
All right. Well,
He's scheduled to be back on the first line with Marchenko and Voronkov, which was on fire. And Monahan, guys, was a point-per-game player. He had 41 points in 41 games. So that's a massive hole to fill. And now Fantilli gets dropped with Ken Johnson and Boone Jenner. So, it kind of balances everything out a little bit.
yeah, a little more depth in that center position.
Yeah.
Because Dan Dartforth,
Yeah, Jenner could have easily been the third-line center, but I think they were just wanted two top lines.
well, you know how it's the opposite of what Carolina does, right? So Carolina likes to spread out their offense, and they put guys like Seth Jarvis on the third line, or they put guys like Sveshnikov on the third line here and there. Like not everybody gets to play with Sebastian Aho. Jarvis actually got injured, and it looks like Jarvis is coming back. So that's going to be a big one that he's not going to miss any time because he ended up playing today.
Yeah, you got a point.
Even though he was injured. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. Guys, best odd man rush ever. Thanks to my segues. I'm out. I'm done for the day.
Retire on a high note.
I'm retiring on a high note.
Give yourself a lot of props. Give yourself a lot of props there.
Well, you do it all the time to yourself. So.
Speaking of retiring on a high note, Vince, why
Yeah.
don't you let people in on the waiver wire?
Yeah, I retired from the waiver wire pickup since last week. No, I'm kidding. So we didn't do it last week, obviously. So we did. I'll give you the results of 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, oh man, what the hell is this name? Junior had Mackie,
Oh, that's good.
Samoskevich.
Yes.
Yeah. So he had,
the next one.
I think he had 3-4 points, if I'm not mistaken. So that was a win for.
Yeah, 5 points, 4 games.
Yeah, so that was a win for Junior. I had, I'm going to modify his name to Philip Shithole. Because
The guy got concussed.
Concussed.
he what? Yeah, when did he
In
get
his last game of the week.
Stop. When did he get concussed?
Last game.
His
Of the
last game of the week. 2 weeks ago.
0, 0, 0, 0.
Those were exactly his stats. So obviously that was a loss. And Nick got saved by the bell with Barrett Hayton. And he got a push. So collectively, we're still over 500. 20 wins, 18 losses, 7 pushes. So now we have just a few more weeks of waiver wire pickup. So let's try to,
Maybe one more week because I think
this
all
week
the
and next
finals.
week. All the finals are done next week. So
for head-to-head teams are done, but this is an important waiver wire pickup because people are in their semis, people are entering their finals.
and it's very important for us too because we can go under 500. So get your shit together, boys.
All right, well,
All right, let me change my pick. I didn't take long enough the first time.
I'm gonna say Nick, and then Nick can just say why he thinks this is a good waiver wire pickup. So Nick picked Matt Coronado from the Calgary Flames. Nick, explain why.
40% owned, so he fits the criteria that we're looking for. At the same time, he's playing with a hot Huberto right now at 5-on-5 and power play 1. So I'm going to go with listener Bamia is going to like this. I'm going to go with Matt Coronado, a boy that he recently picked up and that he's excited about. And I think Matt's going to have a good week. I think Calgary, if I'm not mistaken, is playing 4 games this week. Actually, no, they're
Calgary's playing 3
think
games.
3
this
games.
week.
3 games this week. So it's a little bit of a risk on my side there, but 2 points is good enough for a win there. So
Junior taking a gamble with the gambler.
Yes.
Shane Pinto from
I
the
like that.
Ottawa Senators, 44% owned. Discuss your decision on Shane Pinto, Drew.
I wanted Fabian Zetterlund to tell you the truth, but he was over 50% rostered. And then you guys pressured me to make a decision.
okay, so it's our fault.
So I went with Shane Pinto. No, listen, I think with the addition of Cousins, it really balanced the lines out. They're a little bit deeper. I think it'll give him more opportunity because now they have 2 lines that could play on with the best of the other team. So I see some more opportunity for him. They play 4 games, and in those 4 games, They play the likes of the Buffalo Sabres, the Detroit Red Wings, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Pittsburgh Penguins.
All teams that you could score on.
All teams that get scored on a lot, even though Tristan Jarry has become Dominic Hasek since he's been called up. I foresee a lot of goals for them. So I expect them to at least get 2-3 points in this 4-game series.
All right, and the final pick was mine, and I went with Bobby McMahon from the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's 26% rostered. Let's see, he gets top 6 minutes. He plays on power play. I mean, when you play with talented players at some point...
just tap it in.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
keep your stick on the ice, they say. So, and he's playing 4 games this week also, so I feel he can be a good pickup, especially as a depth player. Teams that are only playing 2 games.
Sorry, before that, just speaking of keeping your stick on the ice, did you see that goal by the St. Louis Blues?
Oh my God! Yeah, no stick on the ice.
One guy batted it out of midair, hit the goalie. The other guy bats it out of midair, goes over the goalie, and Robert Thomas bats it out of the air into the net.
They're playing baseball.
They're playing t-ball with the
T-ball.
puck.
So players you should avoid picking up from Boston and Florida just because they only play 2 games. So I don't think they're going to help you very much when it comes to that aspect this week. There are a lot of teams that are playing 4 games. So it's I think after this week, the playoff picture will be a bit clearer than it is this week. So we got Buffalo, Dallas, Detroit, LA, Minnesota, Montreal, who has 4 away games this week. We spoke about that already. New Jersey, Islanders, Ottawa, Utah, Vancouver, and obviously Toronto.
Islanders, Ottawa, Montreal are all, and Detroit are all fighting for their playoff lives. Buffalo, I think, is pretty much gone out of it, right?
No, there was only 2 teams right now that got expelled from expelled.
Mathematically,
yeah, exactly.
So at least there's going to be interesting games.
Yep. And that's it for...
I just wanted to add that keep an eye on Anaheim because they play on off nights. So if you don't have like a minimum of games played going into the final that like you have to respect, they play on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, which is usually low volume games. So, and they don't really have many guys that are usually over the 50% rostered, especially on Yahoo. So I would just keep an eye out for the trends for the Anaheim Ducks this week.
I think Chicago too is playing all off game.
Yep, you're right.
Nights, so something to keep an eye on.
Even if you can pick a team that's playing on a Sunday, player that's playing on a team that plays on Sunday, it could be that little bit of points that you need to either make you win the league. Usually, because I think
there's actually quite a few teams this week on Sunday.
So there's going to be
surprisingly.
options for people that are doing last minute
100%.
pickups. Yeah.
All right, so that is the waiver wire pickup.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
All right, let's move on to our next segment where we will have some prospect talk. One of our favorite things to do is talk prospects and pretend we know what we're talking about. So let's get right into it. I'll start with you, Vince.
Yep.
Michael Hage, drafted by the Montreal Canadiens. We all know the story by now. At what's it called? The Sphere in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
That was a nice.
Yeah.
What a venue.
Centralized draft, when it was
Yeah,
nice and everybody was there.
Yeah.
Good times. But that actually might come back, eh?
Yeah.
After
They said
this
they're
year.
trying it this year and then taking it from there.
So if you don't know what we're talking about this year, the draft will be decentralized in LA, which means it's more like the NFL, where people stay in their own cities, in their own offices.
Teams will be in their main offices, in their war room, and players will be in LA.
Look, guys, if we take the NFL as a comparison, even though the teams aren't on the floor, it's still a show. It's still a really good show.
Oh, look, I look forward to Gary Bettman being booed every single time he gets on that mic to announce the pick.
So, yeah.
Okay, moving on. It's back to Michael Hage from Michigan. He wins the Freshman of the Year in the Big Ten. Montreal loves this kid. They think he can be something big. Vince, what do we expect from Michael Hage going forward?
Listen, I think the expectations are high as second-line centerman, at worst third-line centerman, or a second-line winger. I mean, Michigan is a big club. There's a lot of big players that play for the Michigan team. So to win this award means he had a really good season. Do I think he's ready for next year? No, I think he should. He still has to develop.
Yeah,
But I
still
think
needs some
I
seasoning.
think this is just this is a positive for the Montreal Canadiens and their big prospect pool.
So something that I was thinking is, you know how in the NFL there's such thing as like a bridge quarterback. You get a veteran to come in, and you have the rookie like sit for a year or two until they're ready to. They don't have a minor league, so it's a little bit different. But I kind of feel like this is an opportunity for Montreal to go out and grab like maybe a Matt Duchene. We spoke about that before, right? Who's going to be a free agent. You put him at that second center spot for a year or two maybe until Michael Hayes is ready to come up, and you kind of bridge that way. So, I think Michael Hayes is at least 2 more years before he even sniffs the NHL. But it'll be an interesting offseason to see how Montreal addresses that 2C position.
Yeah, that's the biggest hole in their lineup right now.
Yeah.
All right, our next prospect drafted by the Washington Capitals. I believe this was in round one?
No.
Round two.
Round two.
Round two. Round two from Boston University, brother of Lane, Cole Hudson wins the Hockey East Rookie of the Year. This guy has flown up the charts in prospect charts. It's pretty remarkable, actually. So what can you tell us about Cole Hudson, and how excited should Capitals fans be?
Well, I'm just going to tell you how excited
I am.
I am that he didn't trade him away, right? Because Cole Hudson was actually doing really well, and he just blew up during the World Juniors. He blew up for the USA. So for me, it was seeing that. I thought his value was really, really high, and people were asking for him during trades. I was throwing him in during trade deadline to try to get a star, and I always valued him very, very highly, right? And you would say to yourself, well, maybe not everybody's on board with that. But 2024, playing in hockey, Boston University, right? Hockey East, 35 games played, 40 points for a defenseman. So over a point per game, looking good, looking like a leader, only 18 years old, so still has many years in front of him. 12 goals, 28 assists. Hockey Prospecting actually has him, and did I remember? I think I lost it actually, but Hockey Prospecting had him very high as a probability of becoming a star. So I'm kind of happy I didn't trade him, and it's going to be nice to see him grow. Let's just put it that way. Oh, our one of the people that we started following on Twitter, which was the guy Nick.
Nick Habs fan?
Yeah, he does projections.
Yeah.
So he's basically stating that he's at 44% chance of being a star according to his model. So 100% chance to be an NHLer. So you got to be a little bit excited about that.
Yeah, and I think he fell in a good situation where you have John Carlson, who's getting there, but they have Chicherim, who they got off trade, who everybody thought was washed, and this year is turning out to be an unbelievable defenseman.
Let's see if he resigns.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So, but if he does stay in Washington, it's a very good. He's very very well protected.
Yeah.
Very well insulated.
Insulated when it comes to it.
Rasmus Sandin has turned into a nice two-way defender.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, considering how well Washington has done right now this season, to think they have guys like Leonard, Cristal, Cole Hudson still to come, man, that's very impressive. That's a great turnaround that management did.
You could kind of see the progression from Ovechkin possibly retiring,
Yeah.
John Carlson possibly retiring, and then you have Leonard coming in, you have Cristal coming in.
Well, you have Connor McMichael.
You have,
Dubois is still young and seems to be
Dubois.
revived.
Yeah.
Tom Wilson can take the head of this team.
Cole Hudson on a power play.
Yeah.
I mean,
Their Washington retooled their team very, very well.
I think they're the envy of the NHL now. And this is, I think, what Boston is trying to do.
You know what's
They're
going to
trying
be great
retool on the fly, like Washington did.
is that they made it look easy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's not. So how many teams are going to fail at that attempt, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see. Okay, Vince,
Yeah.
your boy,
Yeah.
your boy was benched in the KHL because he doesn't seem to be strong enough for the opponents that they were going to play. Ivan Demidov, despite breaking records of rookie records,
Isn't he their leading scorer as
he
well?
is their leading scorer in the KHL for CSKA Moscow, but not strong enough, though. Not strong enough to play versus some opponents and possibly in the playoffs. So, what do we make of this?
Complete and utterly bullshit. And it's just CSK he plays for?
CSKA, yeah.
Yeah,
SKA or
whatever.
whatever
it's called.
CSK Moscow. Not Moscow.
No.
Yeah.
St. Petersburg.
Same.
Yeah. So, anyways, the team he's playing with
He's playing
basically
for SKA St. Petersburg.
Ska.
taught all year that, you know what, we just have to talk to him. He's going to resign. He's going to resign. And finally, Demidov just told him, listen, I'm not resigning. I'm taking my shit and I'm going to the NHL. So this is how the team right now is trying to make money off of Demidov. And why do I say this? It's very simple. Demidov can break his contract.
The Mishkov effect.
Yeah, exactly. So all Montreal has to do, which has been rumored. Now, rumored, this is Junior's TMZ type thing, but it has been rumored that Montreal, if making the playoffs, might be willing to pay a fee for Demidov's contract to get terminated. So I think this is what it is. St. Petersburg is just looking to see if they can gouge Montreal for some cash to terminate a contract that won't be re-signed.
Yeah, so all of this is pretty much pressure tactics.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to play in the playoffs,
mob related.
sign a extension with
exactly,
us.
yeah.
Right? And the kid is kind of sticking to his guns right now. We'll see what happens. I'm going to be very interested to see what happens.
He's not gonna.
There's a
sign-
few
he's not gonna
scenarios
sign
that
a
are,
contract.
if they get eliminated or they don't play him in the playoffs, they're going to send him to their affiliate team in the MHL,
Yeah, so
where
that
he was
can-
before, so that he could play in the
yes.
playoffs and help them win.
That's the story. He can, but that's why a lot of people are saying it's all about how much is Montreal willing to pay, because
I don't think Montreal wants to pay anything. Because think about it this
the
way: they're
NHL
not expected
technically
to
is not
win.
allowed.
They're not expected to win the Stanley Cup, right? This year, let's be honest. Even if they make it, why lose that ELC contract for 1 year?
how many players last year lost?
I know, but they don't need to. Demidov is still going to come that you sign him or not.
But,
no one's going to. There's no tactics
yeah, I
there.
know.
The tactics are only coming from CSK.
Does the playoffs count as an ELC year?
I think there's a deadline though to sign the guy.
I think he has to play a minimum of 10 games if I'm not wrong. That's why all the teams played him 9 games and then send him back to the
No,
But I don't think he
no,
could just play in the playoffs. He has to be signed before. I think.
Yeah, I think any player you sign now is automatically. They burned their first year of the ELC. Who did Montreal did? Montreal did this with someone last year.
No, they did it
with
years
Lane
ago
Hudson.
with
Caulfield. Cole Caulfield. Cole Caulfield finished his university. Lane Hudson finished his university. He played 2 games.
Yeah, the Lane Hudson burned one of his ELC years
Okay.
because they signed him and only played 2 games. So yeah,
All right. And lastly, Nick, this prospect, undrafted, and will go 2025 also undrafted. Gavin McKenna, the likely number 1 pick in 2026, has 23 points, a lousy 23 points in 5 games.
Yeah,
Is that absolutely ridiculous or what? We haven't seen the likes of that in I don't know how long.
the math just does not compute. Cam Robinson tweeted out, number 1 in the WHL right now in points is Andrew Cristal, 132 points in 57 games played. What a stupid league.
Washington Capital draft pick, 2nd round pick as well.
Gavin McKenna, who's not even eligible to be selected this year, has to, because he's too young, 126 points in 55 games played.
Is he also in the Western Hockey League or the OHL?
No, I think he's in the West, isn't
Okay.
he? Anyways, I was following Cam Robinson's tweet, so blame Cam Robinson, not me. And Berkeley Catton, 109 points in 57 games played. Those are the top 3 scorers.
Seattle Kraken 1st round pick.
Yeah. Recently traded away by myself. Anybody I trade away, by the way, does great. So, all this to say is that, guys, if we were talking about generational generational. Bedard generational. McKenna's just that much higher, right? Like, what does he play? WHL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
129 points in 56 games.
Make sure.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy, man. I want to see in Dynasty League. So if you can remember this and you're in a Dynasty League next year, send us how many teams are tanking.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be half your league, and half of every league is going to tank for this guy.
Yeah.
Which is that's how it, like, I thought Bedard would have been this good, this effect, but McKenna is just like,
Right now, he looks like a world apart. Like,
world apart.
A total different tier of player, right? The Bedard generational thing is not what it looks like. It's more like he's a franchise player, but Gavin McKenna looks like a generational player. You can't say, I know you own him, but you can't say that this is not 100,000
I think
times
they're
more
both
impressive.
generational players.
Well, technically, you can only have one per generation, right?
Yeah.
All right.
okay, so that does it for individual prospect talk. Now let's do a mini mock draft, if you don't mind, guys. So-
You want to do that?
So just to like
A top 5 mini draft,
just
mock
to
draft.
burst Nick's bubble a bit. Connor Bedard playing the WHL also, 143 points in 57 games.
Yeah, but that was his draft year.
That was then. This is
Now look at it. Look at the right before his draft year. What was it?
100 points, 62 games.
40-point difference
That's
already.
a 40-point difference there, buddy.
Well,
Got to compare apples to apples.
all right, we'll see what he does next year.
I don't think anybody should be worried about Bedard. I think this has more to do about McKenna and how ridiculous his points are at the moment. Okay, so what we want to do right now is, because this has been fluctuating a lot, like the top 5 in this upcoming draft has been fluctuating since I'd say even the beginning of the season. But lately, man, there's been shuffling. Everyone has their different opinion. Who's emerging? Who's falling down? So what we want to do here is take the top 5 teams right now in this very moment, which are top 5 from the bottom. San Jose Sharks, Chicago Blackhawks, Nashville Predators, the Buffalo Sabres, and the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, we know there's a lottery that comes into play. We also know that there's still about 12 games left in the season, so this order might change 14 times between now and then. But because we love to draft, we will do a mock draft based off what we know at this very moment. So to start, Vince, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Give us your mock draft. Actually, you know what? We'll start with the first pick overall. So San Jose technically would be picking first as we speak. Who are they going with with the number 1 overall pick?
I think whoever's in that number 1 spot will go with Schaefer as a defenseman, just because they're so rare, and he's got so much potential and high at his age that I don't think anybody who's in that number 1 spot will. I think Schaefer will be the first overall pick this year. So no matter what team is there, even if it's Chicago who drafted Lashunov last year, I think Schaefer is still the number 1 pick going in.
Nick, do you have Schaefer also number 1?
I have Schaefer also at number 1. I just think for San Jose, he'd be what a pairing with Sam Dickinson for years to come, right? And then you have Luca Cagnoni as your number 3 or 4.
Yeah, with Makmadulin or
Kamadulin. Yeah, I just like that Schaefer 1. I think he stays there.
yeah. Well, that's a consensus for all of us here. We all have Schaefer at number 1. So do I.
That's the easy one.
That's the
It's
easy one
boring
because he's been the most consistent from beginning to end and the most dominant too. So number 2, I think this was so Higgins was projected to be number 1 when we started the season, and he slipped. Now let's see if some of us have him at 2 here. So Vince, you go first. Chicago is drafting at number 2. Schaefer's gone. Who are they going with?
I would go with Michael Misa. I really think 6'1" centerman could do well. I know they have Frank Nazar in their ranks, but I mean a Bedard and Misa 1-2 punch is something to have. Misa has 126 points in 62 games in the OHL, which we can all agree OHL is not the strongest of leagues, but that's still really impressive. So 6'1", 185 pounds. I would say Michael Misa, because I think defensively they've got their young players in Leshunov, Vlasic, who seems to have picked it up since Seth Jones departed. Del Mastro they have also. So and they have Korchinski in the AHL. So I really do believe they need that solid second line sentiment. So I'd go with Michael Misa on this one.
So I'll agree with you that Leshunov was their last year's first round pick. So, and the year before that they had
Korchinski at
Korchinski,
number
right?
8,
So I don't think they're going to go D a third year in a row that high. So Michael Misa is my pick as well here. Just to give you an idea, 65% star probability according to Hockey Prospecting, 75% chances of being a star, being an NHLer. Sorry, he has first or second line center written all over him, and he's 6'1".
That's the biggest thing. They need size in that.
They
on
need
that
a little bit of
Chicago team.
size there. I like Misa there. A very talented 1-2 punch if you have Bedard and Misa.
So I'll change it up a little bit. I'm not convinced he'll be a center. I do think he'll be more successful at wing, which is why I think Chicago will go with Frondell. I think they need that number 2 center. They can't draft someone that might or might not be a center. We know Frondell is a center. Now he's one of those guys that has emerged since the middle of the season to into the top 5, maybe even to the top 3. In this case, based off need, I think Chicago goes Frondell. I was thinking Higgins, but I think Frondell gives them more of what they need, more stability, more certainty, if you will, with the pick.
You're pulling Bennett Seneke.
Beckett Seneke.
And according to Hockey Prospecting, has a 76% star probability. One of his draft year comps is William Nylander, so I think that's pretty promising. Moving on, a 99% NHL probability, according to Hockey Prospecting. So at number 3, we have the Nashville Predators. Vince, you went Schaefer, number 1 to San Jose. You went Misa, number 2 to Chicago. Who's Nashville taking at number 3?
I think if Nashville stays there, they're celebrating. At this point, you take James Higgins because he's a centerman. Nashville's really weak. Well, weak. They have Ryan O'Reilly still as their number 1 center, and then
And they're playing Stamkos right now at center,
Yeah.
but he's
with his age, he's got
They've
to be
traded Novak.
they traded away Novak.
So it's Luca Evangelista that's there. So I mean, if I'm Nashville, I celebrate that this guy fell to me at 3 and take him as my number 1 center, my future centerman for years to come. So I'd go with James Higgins.
Look, I'm kind of on the same page as you, except that I went with Frendell here.
I guess a big on
And I just think the fact that he's
I'm
played with
believing the
men,
hype.
he's played against men, and he's not even 18 yet. He's like just turning 18 now.
Yeah.
So we're talking about one of the younger guys in this draft class, and he's already producing so well that I think he's 6 foot. Nashville could really use a Ryan O'Reilly replacement, and I think Frendell kind of hits that Ryan O'Reilly mark.
Fair enough. And based off me giving Frondell to Chicago at number 2, I went with Misa. I think they have holes all over their lineup in terms of, look, these guys are not going to play next year or the year after, where Stamkos and O'Reilly and Marchessault are still going to be relevant. So they need centers, they need wingers, and I'm going with the natural goal scorer, Michael Misa, here for the Nashville Predators. So at number 4, Vince, the Buffalo Sabres, yet again picking in the top 10.
Trade the pick.
Yeah, definitely.
Trade the pick.
In the event that they don't trade the pick,
Trade it.
and they do pick
Trade
4th, who do you have going to the Buffalo Sabres here?
Listen, I like Jackson Smith as defenseman, but Buffalo cannot take another defenseman. They've got Deline, they've got Owen Powers, and then if Bowen Byram resigns with them, then that's a solid 3 pairing. It's a solid top 3 defenseman. McLeod as your number 2 centerman.
Well, it's Norris now.
Norris, as your number 2 centerman, or McLeod. This is where I would go with Anton Frandel. I mean, I think he would fit phenomenally on this team as a center. Uh, they have players that are playing center that could be pushed on the wing to make space for him, and and then it's just finding a goalie for Buffalo.
Well, I think Buffalo goes Higgins here because again, we pretty much
Higgins.
Yeah.
we pretty much have the same guys being repeated here on the top four. I'm going with Higgins. They're not shy of taking smaller players, and Higgins is a 5'10" player, and he plays center, and he's a good American boy, and they seem to like good American boys. So maybe that's the way they go.
I have Higgins too going to Buffalo. Another consensus pick. Actually, no, not consensus, but I'll pick the center.
So hopefully this is going to be different here on the number 5 pick for Philadelphia, guys.
I think this is definitely going to be different. All right, number 5 of Philadelphia, Vince. Just to recap, you have Schaefer going to San Jose at 1. You had Higgins going to Chicago at 2.
No, Misa.
Misa, Chicago at 2. Nashville taking Higgins. And Buffalo taking Frundell. Right?
Yeah.
So at 5, we have the Philadelphia Flyers.
At 5, I mean, this is just 6'3", 205 pounds. It's a John Tortorella type player.
Not sure he's going to live to see the day, but
I know, but I'd go with Porter Martoni here. I think he's a torch guy. He's a big boy that can skate. Has to use his body a bit more for his size, but we're going through this with Slavkovsky in Montreal. It doesn't come easy to some players like Brady freaking Kachuk that just knows how to play. But I think this is the player. I think the Torts, the one. If you asked Torts, I think it was last year, which player he thought was going to be the most developed in Philly, it was Forrester. He would have told you. So I think Porter Martoni is a Torts guy, and if he's there to stay, I think that's the player they draft.
Yeah, I don't think you draft based on who your coach is necessarily, but what I would say with Martoni is they have Michkov on the right wing, they have Konechny on the right wing. So if they're drafting Martoni also, it seems like they have a large imbalance on the right wing. And that's why I kind of went Desnoyers for them. 6'2" center out of Moncton, best QMJHL player, but also has the size, 6'2" to play center on that team, where that team's lacking some center depth right now, especially after getting rid of Lawton.
Yeah.
Couturier isn't getting any younger. And they got rid of Frost. Like they don't really have centers.
just Luchenko on his way.
Yeah,
Luchenko's
who
on
they
his
drafted
way, but
last
he's
year.
not really looked at as a top line guy.
The way he did last year's preseason was.
I mean, we'll see.
Exactly.
But Desnoyers does look like possibly that top line center in the future. So I kind of like him coming in here in Philadelphia.
I'm going with Porter Martoni too. His draft equivalency is 46 points right now. He's 60% star probability, which isn't great, but it's still pretty good considering hockey prospecting's tough evaluation. And his NHL probability is 67%. I think Desnoyers is there. I just don't see the fit. I feel like Porter Martoni is a flyer. And I like what you said about the depth they have on right wing, but at the end of the day, I don't think Briere is the type to pick based off need or situation. He'll just pick best player available like he did with Mishkov. So, and then he'll figure that out after, right? I think playing left or right wing is a little easier than having to go from center to wing. So I think if push comes to shove, I think they could shift some of those players. Porter Martoni for me would go number 5. So basically, after our 3 mocks, if you will, we have a total of 6 players, and only one pick was consensus. All 3 was Schaefer at 1.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells you at what point things
Could move.
and at what point there's no certainty after number 1.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about Victor Eklund, but he's another guy that is playing very well.
Roger McQueen had a big injury.
Roger McQueen would have been top 3.
Yes,
if
top
he didn't.
3. And if you spoke of McQueen last year, It was like this guy was going to be another generational type, and then slowed
Yeah.
down, got hurt, but has been on he's been ripping it since he's come back from injury. There's even Radim Mritka, I believe he's Czech. He's also emerged in the second half of this NHL season, if you will, in terms of calendar. He's emerged too as a point producer too. So it's going to be interesting to see. And there's always surprises at Seneki and at Leo Carlson.
Yeah.
Funny enough, both came from Anaheim, who will pick number 8.
So who
things
knows
stay-
who they pick at 8?
Guys, that does it for this episode. Actually, before we end the episode, we have our interview with Joseph Jojo Rapone with about the Vancouver Canucks, Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, Kevin Lankinen, amongst other things.
Guys, give it a listen.
So here it is. Take a look, take a listen, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace out, guys.
All right, Jojo. Are you ready for the hard-hitting questions?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, let's do this. Who's your favorite player?
My favorite player is Elias Pettersson, who is the forward number 40 for the Vancouver Canucks.
The one of many, many Petterssons on the Vancouver Canucks.
Yes, one of 3 Petterssons.
And who is the real Pettersson? So if we look back at his stats, in 2021, 2022, he had 68 points. Then this following season, he had 102 points. The season after that, he had 89 points. And now this year, he's only on pace for 57 points. So my question to you is, who is the real Pettersson? Will he be an 80-point player, a 90-point player, or a 100-point player?
To me, I think Pettersson is an 80 to 90 point player.
Wow. Any reason why?
Just like kind of how good of a player he is, and based off his last couple of seasons. Because this year he had a rough start of the season, so he didn't get lots of points.
Yeah, and he was actually starting to do well, and now he got injured. So hopefully he's not out for too long.
Yeah.
I know this might be a biased answer from you, but will he be traded in the offseason?
My opinion, I don't think so.
All right. And now moving on from who I personally thought would be captain of the Vancouver Canucks to the actual captain of the Vancouver Canucks, Quinn Hughes. Is he the best defenseman in the National Hockey League?
In my opinion, I think he is, but if it wouldn't be Quinn Hughes, I think it would be Cale Makar.
Good answer. Good answer. Okay. And would you vote for him as MVP this year?
If we make the playoffs, I'll 100% vote for him.
Solid answer. Wow. This is not scripted, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so moving on to another potential MVP for the Vancouver Canucks, considering what's happened this year. Kevin Lankinen,
Okay, yeah.
the goalie. Would you tell fantasy GMs out there to draft him next year as a legitimate number 1 goalie?
I'll tell them this. If Demko was injured the last season, whatever you do, don't pick him because he's going to be injured again in the beginning of the next season. So if you think Lankin's going to do good this season and Demko's injured, well, take him as your pick.
Wise words there, Jojo. Wise words. And Vancouver is currently 3 points out of a playoff spot.
Yes.
Do they make the playoffs this year?
My opinion, I think we will.
That does it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Jojo.
Peace.